Hello everybody, today I've got some more sketchbook ideas for you and I'm going to use Karin markers again because this video is sponsored by Karin markers. I've used them in the past and I'm gonna use them in the future because I love them so much. So check out the link in the description box if you also want to get some Karin markers. Now let's get started. So for the first page, I used a permanent marker. So this is not a Karin marker. This is a waterproof marker. It's just for the first step because I doodled some basic leaf shapes and then I created those very random doodles, as you can see here, because we are going to create some neurographic art, which basically means that you doodle lines all over the page and then, as you can see here, you connect the edges. So everything that looks spiky and rough will be connected now. I'm sure I've missed a few of those, but here you can see the next step, using the Karin marker to kind of outline the inner part. And then with water, we are blending everything in. So this is gonna give this some three-dimensional shapes and going to look more interesting that way. And I think that's the perfect thing to do when you have any kind of art block or you want to fill your sketchbook, you're looking for something super easy. And you can see here that I tried to make the leaves that I did in the beginning green and everything else was a warm color. So the leaves were either green or blue and everything else was either orange or pink or purple or something like that. And you can kind of make out where the shape of the leaf is in the end. I messed up a few times, so I went over the colors again and it worked out pretty well, I would say. And quite honestly, I think this was the most therapeutic and enjoyable sketchbook page that I've done in a long time because you can really turn off your brain. You don't have to think about it. You can listen to an audiobook or do something else, listen to a podcast or your favorite music and just chill and do this. It's like a coloring page, but even more easy. And the whole blending process, I think, went so smooth and was so fun. I didn't use the best sketchbook for this. It's not a watercolor sketchbook. That's why it doesn't look perfectly, but it still was so much fun to do and so colorful. And then for the next page, I used the same colors because I wanted everything to go together and I just eliminated a few and made a rainbow out of this. So this is gonna be our background. It's probably going to look less streaky if you use real watercolor paper, but doesn't matter too much. We're gonna blend this anyways. And this is just the background and I just love those colors so much. It's so bright, but it's so fun, makes me so happy to look at. And you can see here I carefully blended everything. I made sure that I didn't mix colors that don't go together. Then I used some paper and a round object. And you can also use a compass. And I made out very basic shapes of this balloon and then some clouds as well. And then I cut everything out and I glued it onto our background. So this is super simple. It's really beginner friendly and you can add more details if you want, if you're more of an advanced artist. Or you can just keep it as it is with the foreground elements. I decided to add a little bit of details, so I did a bit of an outline with the darker purple tone that I had in this color set that I had picked. And I did some stripes on the basket and connected the basket and the balloon. And then I did outlines on the balloon and also on the clouds. And then in the middle, I did a little bit of detail just to really sell the fact what this is and blended it a little bit with water. And I mean, this was mixed media paper that I glued on. So again, not the best paper, but it worked quite well. And I let that dry and added in the little sewing stripes. I don't know what it is, but I did that later. You're going to see that in a minute. Here it is. And I think that really made everything go together more and look more complete. And I did a bit of an outline with the purple tone again, and here's the finished page. This is super easy and it goes together with the other page, and this is so bright and so colorful. So now let's move on to the next one that's going to be slightly less bright. And I used a compass this time to create different circles. You can also use different kinds of round objects that you find. And then I did some planets. I'm sure you've seen planets in one of these ideas videos before, and I'm sure I've done planets in the past plenty times, but I really wanted to do them with the Karin markers because they just blend so beautifully and it's just so much fun, especially with the background that I added in later. So you can see that I really doodled and use different colors and textures, and I didn't create planets that actually exist. I just wanted to do whatever I felt like, and so I did different planets that just came to my mind, and you can see that I just played around with that. Here we have this planet that has a lot of lines that actually looks like a planet that exists, but then this one is like a weird version of the Earth maybe. And yeah, we have this super pink one, and I added in a little bit of an outline for that one as well, and then did the smaller ones with less detail. And the one on the left is like a sun or something like that, a very bright and very orange planet. And then I started with the background and decided I needed a little bit of tape to protect the other side. And I started with the black, then I used a very dark purple, and I just very roughly colored everything in. And later on, I mixed everything with some water and it blended together very beautifully. So this is kind of a galaxy background here. And now with the water, everything's really coming together. And I kind of messed up the circles a little bit, but I'm gonna fix that later. I also tested what the jelly roll pen would look like here to add some stars, and later on I did some more. And here you can see that I got out the metallic markers, and I especially love this silver one from the Karin metallic set. And this one is just so bright, so shiny, and I did the outlines of some of the planets, and the other planets I used a golden and I think a bronze tone to kind of go with the colors that the planets already had, and outlined everything a little bit, added some sparkles, and really just finished everything off. That made it look much cleaner, and you can see this silver is just so shiny and bright. It makes me so happy to look at and to wiggle the page and kind of see what it looks like. And then I added some stars and I removed the tape, and here's this finished page. This is also very beginner friendly and you can customize it however you want. So the last page is maybe probably the hardest one, and this one might be a little bit harder for beginners, but I really urge you to try it. And I just painted a moth. You can also do a butterfly or any kind of insect. And I did a very, very colorful moth, and you can add so many details here. And honestly, trust me, when you mess up the proportions of a moth, nobody's probably going to notice, and even if they do, it's not a big deal. So this is so much easier than like painting a portrait of a human or something like that. So you can really mess up here and still make it look good. I'm sure my proportions are completely off here because I was just chilling and doing whatever I wanted to. And you can see that I really used lots of colors and textures, and I mean I used colors that were also on the left side so it would kind of go together as a sketchbook page spread, but also I just used the colors that really made me happy. And I think there's a moth out there that looks similar to this, and so this is what mine looks like now. And I did those circles, dots, all kinds of details. Just make sure that it's somewhat symmetrical. That's probably the only thing that you really have to keep in mind, because you can tell if it's not symmetrical, but otherwise you're good to really doodle around here. And then for the background, I just did rather simple leaves. I didn't want to distract from the foreground. I did a little bit of detail, but not too much. And so I used this dark turquoise tone because we already had a blue tone that was very similar on the left page, and again I wanted them to somewhat go together. I just used a darker version of that one and did the background of the leaves. I actually did that background first, as you can see here. I was kind of mapping out the shape of the leaves and going around that, and then I drew in the leaves, and I used a warmer green tone for that, and then I used a little bit of water on my brush to blend the background a little bit to make it look a little bit more smooth. You can always do that, and it's gonna make everything look a little bit more watercolor-like. And then I added in a little bit of details to our leaves, as you can see here, and blended them in a little bit as well, so it would not be too much. In hindsight, I think I could have maybe added in a little bit more details or left a little bit more details with the leaves. But quite honestly, I didn't want to overwork it, so this is what I did. I did a little bit of an outline here, and I kind of traced those veins a little bit with a darker color after I had blended them. And I mean, it creates this kind of look where you can see some of the veins very faintly, and some of them are a bit bolder because I did them again. And then I decided I needed a little bit of an outline for the moth as well. And then I used the permanent marker that I had previously used for the first piece. I used it here again. And that's actually the marker that came in Cheza's art box. And I've been using it ever since I got it in there, and I really love that one. I think it goes very well with the Karin markers as a finishing touch, or like I did in the first piece as a permanent marker option. And so I did these little outlines to kind of finish it off. And then I also decided to blend the outlines of the leaves just slightly so they wouldn't be as harsh. And here we have the finished page spread of this one. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to check out Karin markers, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!